Alright everyone, today we're playing Bellibolt plus Jolteon. Bellibolt paired with Jolteon. First, let me explain something real quick. In the early games of this footage, my list up front was actually one card different from the deck list shown on the right. At first I was running 2 Copycat, and I wasn't playing Tourist. But after thinking about it, I feel like 1 Tourist and 1 Copycat is a bit better. I'll explain why in a moment. As usual, let's start with the ideal opening setup. Best case scenario, you start with Jolteon in the active. But if you only have a basic Eevee, you need to think a little, if you don't have any. Draw supporters in hand, and you don't have the Eevee evolution pieces either. Then whether you even want Eevee up front is something you should consider. Next, this deck has a really important rule of thumb for whether you lead with Bellibolt or lead with Jolteon, and I'm talking about the basics. The key factor is, are you going first or going second? If Jolteon can evolve right away, then as soon as your opponent attaches their first energy going second, you can immediately start pressuring them with damage. But if we're going second, starting with Bellibolt's basic and charging it up is actually a really solid line. As long as your basic Bellibolt doesn't get sniped or pulled and KO'd, there's a pretty high chance you can evolve straight into Bellibolt next turn, because we run a lot of draw supporters, and Bellibolt isn't that hard to set up. That said, whether you can do that depends a lot on what deck your opponent is playing. If they have a fast acceleration engine and can get online quickly, then going first might actually be their advantage. For example, if it's Hydreigon going first and they can evolve into Hydreigon next turn, your active Bellibolt can just disappear immediately. But I trust you guys. My handsome Master Ball players. You've got the skill to judge who should be active and who should be in the back. Now for deck tech. There's a sneaky one of a non-X Jolteon for fast prize trades. Most of the time, I honestly don't even need to use it. But when you do, it can swing games out of nowhere. And you guys already know, when an evolution deck runs a one of baby version, it's usually to deal with Oricorio. With our stadium, the turn you evolve, you can straight up take out Oricorio. And if the game turns into a grind, Jolteon's ability can still apply pressure to Oricorio, which helps patch the not enough damage problem on the normal Jolteon line. Now let me explain why I cut one of the 2 Copycat and turned it into Tourist, purely for draw power. Double Copycat is still better. But first issue, Copycat's power depends on hand sizes, so it's inherently inconsistent. There's randomness to it. Second point, this is a Jolteon deck, meaning whether you can evolve into Jolteon early matters a lot. If you get it, the pressure is huge. Every energy attachment gets punished, and if they're on a normal evolution line, their active basically gets chipped for 60 right away. Finding your stage 1 early. Tourist is actually slightly better than Copycat. It edges it out in that specific job. And the last point is about this item card. What kind of decks make Copycat insane? Decks that can spam a lot of items, tools, and stadiums, all in the same turn. That's when Copycat pops off, because you can dump your hand first. But in this deck, our key bench lightning acceleration item is RNG. It's not guaranteed. If that item were 100% guaranteed acceleration, I'd immediately swap Tourist back into Copycat. But Copycat's burst turn. Can't rely only on that item, because it can fail. It can literally turn into a dead card. So after thinking about it, I decided Tourist is just a bit better for helping Jolteon evolve early. And Bellibolt benefits from it too. When I first started building this deck, I tried Pichu and Magnezone-based acceleration, but something felt off. It just didn't feel smooth to play. So I ended up on Jolteon plus Bellibolt. And honestly, this version feels great. So far I've seen a lot of different Bellibolt variants. But you know the usual story. It's a new format, new cards. So there's still a lot of room to improve and refine the list. It has a ton of potential, so try more versions and test a lot. And lastly, here's my take on Bellibolt. For a stage 1, it's honestly kind of overtuned. It comes online with just 2 energy, and its damage can keep scaling. And the most broken part is, normally if a Pokémon wants to hit harder, you have to stack energy on that attacker to power it up. Like Entei, for example. But Bellibolt is different. Its strength is that it doesn't need all the energy on itself. You can see it here. I've got 2 energy on Bellibolt and 2 energy on my benched Jolteon. But because my benched Jolteon has energy, Bellibolt's attack jumps from 140 to double that. 2 energy for 140 on a stage 1. And it even has 160 HP. Yeah, that tells you how scary it is. So I highly recommend. In this format, if you don't know what to upgrade to a 2-star, and it's not a supporter, upgrade Bellibolt. It's adorable and worth collecting. And one more reminder, that new item card. That accelerates energy to your lightning bench. Can't attach to a normal type Eevee that hasn't evolved into Jolteon yet. It only works on lightning Pokémon. Alright, that's basically the deck explanation. Let's jump into today's matches. And we queue into a Psychic deck Gardevoir. Their active Gardevoir is in a really good spot. And honestly, I don't have many choices here. I just have to push damage. If they have Sustain, then I'll just play the prize trade and grind it out, because we're already up 2 prizes and they're still at 0. Positioning still matters a lot. This deck, the reason it feels smoother for me is because I can keep that clean 2+2 board. When I watch other Bellibolt lists, they get forced into 2-1 so easily. And honestly, that just looks uncomfortable. My opponent is trying to use Ice Pop to heal Gardevoir into a safe HP range. And with Callum, they actually managed to do it. Jolteon into Gardevoir is kind of a soft counter, to be honest. But unfortunately, when they were turbocharging energy, my Jolteon wasn't on board. So now our burst damage has to rely more on that benched Bellibolt that hasn't evolved yet. Then they use Nurse Joy to heal their active Gardevoir up to 140. But that 140 HP is actually right in Bellibolt's KO range. And just a reminder, like I mentioned earlier, Jolteon, to some extent, does counter Gardevoir. So if you're playing against a Jolteon deck like this, you really have to think about how you attach energy and how you distribute it, so you don't walk your Pokémon into a clean KO. That's super important. And then I top deck Bellibolt, so we just fire off a high voltage cannon. And that's game. The third piece of footage today is an electric mirror match. My opponent starts Magnemite, but they're also playing Bellibolt. Alright, we're not holding back. If they're dumping cards and building a huge hand, my copycat is going to punish that. No matter which version of Jolteon I hit here, it puts a ton of pressure on them. If it's the normal version, and I take out their Magnemite, they basically don't get to play the game. I think the non-X version is even better. It fits my aggressive style more. But the X version is fine too. I was hesitating at the end about whether to drop this stadium, but I decided not to. Thinking about it, it wasn't necessary. My hand was already low enough at 2 cards. Then my opponent evolves their benched Bellibolt and also evolves their active into Magneton. If you're going to high roll that hard, then alright, say less. Jolteon's ability starts messing with them. And the biggest weakness of Magneton is you don't get to use rare candy, so getting instant bulk is basically unrealistic. And in spots like this, positioning becomes the biggest throw. An active Magneton that hasn't become Magnezone yet is a free 1 prize. Taking that Magneton out isn't just a prize, it also kills their tempo, because Bellibolt needs other Pokémon to have lightning energy to scale its damage. So now they not only lose the active, they also lose the energy on it. Hard attaching up to 4 energy on Bellibolt is unrealistic. So at this point, the game is basically over. They try to use Ice Pop to give Bellibolt more sustain. They actually hit it and heal their active Bellibolt to full, then use Copycat to refresh their hand. Unfortunately, they didn't draw into more draw. That's the rough part. They found a basic, but with only 1 card left in hand. The odds of also having the full evolution line are pretty low. And I top deck another Bellibolt here. This one feels really good, because my finishing range gets even higher. Closing the game becomes easier. I actually did the damage math already. I just didn't play it last turn. I played this turn, and it's exactly enough to make it so. Their Bellibolt can't KO my active Jolteon. And that aggressive line? Yeah, I slam Copycat. And they instantly concede. This game is exactly what I was talking about earlier. You have to decide who you want to lead with. I had the EV option, and I also had the Bellibolt option. But in the end, I chose to lead with Bellibolt's basic, and I ended up running into Sukin. Not sure if it's a Greninja shell or not, but as long as they don't high roll too hard, like Misty flipping double heads on turn 1, or they flood the board with Baxcalibur pieces, and evolve to start accelerating for Sukin, then yeah, I basically called it right. Here my opponent didn't bench anything, and they didn't even play Misty, so I get to attach 1 energy onto my Bellibolt. Next turn, if I get a little lucky, I can threaten a KO right away. It just depends on whether my acceleration item shows up. But if I'm playing super seriously, the safer line, if I had the choice, and I had Jolteon in hand, I'd evolve into Jolteon immediately, instead of letting Bellibolt lead. The only reason I gambled like this is because I didn't have Jolteon as an option. That's why I played it this way. So first I try to play an early card to shrink my hand. If I can, great. If not, it's fine. I'll just Copycat to reshuffle again. And if I hit heads on the acceleration, the game is basically over anyway. And yup, I managed to shuffle into the acceleration item I wanted. Please, just give me 1 heads. I really need this right now. If it's tails, then it is what it is. My opponent probably isn't a stage 1 deck. So I went ahead and Struck my stadium just to trim my hand a bit. Then they bench a Greninja. Even though my acceleration whiffed earlier because we're going second, we still have the advantage. No need to panic. As long as we can take out their Sukin that's loaded with energy, the tempo is still on our side. At the end of the day, it's electric into water. We've got type advantage. Once we take out their active Sukin with 2 energy, they basically lose all their momentum. All that energy is gone. That hard-built 2 energy Sukin. Gone is gone. And on top of that, Bellibolt's damage is actually insane. For water Pokémon, tanking a Bellibolt hit is pretty difficult. So they're not fast enough anymore. And they're not bulky enough either. That's game. The last piece of footage today is against Whimsicott. If you're interested, watch till the end. If not, feel free to go copy other decks. Thanks for watching all the way to the end. I'm a Greninja player, see you next time, peace.